All right, we have Alan Aragon here. Alan, would you like to introduce yourself to the podcast and the people up in the panel?
What's going on, everybody? My name is Alan Aragon, as folks with
Oh,
a Spanish accent would say. But yeah, that doesn't really matter. And this is an odd intro for me to give myself. um, I am basically one of the initial um, spearheads, I suppose, of the evidence-based fitness evidence-based information movement in the fitness industry. So
yeah,
I've always had a nutrition focus, although I was a trainer for the first decade of my career, but always been about nutrition. And me and a couple other dudes, maybe the ones who stand out, and especially the ones that maybe the audience would know about, Lane Norton,
yep,
Lyle McDonald,
yep,
Lane Norton, Lyle McDonald, John Berardi, and maybe Tom Venuto. We kind of pushed the science-based angle towards the fitness audience, and it finally caught on after we did it for like 10 years. And by this time that happened, that it caught on, it was like 2010 or so. And then
yeah,
things kind of really sort of gained momentum from there. And then we got to see a newer generation of fitness professionals care about the scientific basis of information in the fitness world. So it's been really cool to see that happen.
yeah,
And so yeah, that's pretty much who I am. And as far as my work is concerned, I'm fortunate to have been one of the guys who collaborates on the research that the fitness industry bases its practice guidelines on. So as far as sports nutrition goes, and also as far as nutrition as it relates to body composition, specifically um, strength and hypertrophy for the most part. Not a whole
yeah.
lot of endurance research work amongst my colleagues and I, because all we really care about is just gaining a little more muscle, losing a little more fat. That's all we care
Of
about.
course. I've always listened to you, Lyle, Lane, throughout my whole like childhood. So like I know that Lyle he always been like pushed back uh from like I guess like the news, I guess, because I know he got like a lot of controversy from like other like fitness gurus, right, saying like he's wrong, but like if
Mhm.
uh, sooner or later, like I even have his fitness book. Oh yeah, your fitness book. You recently just made one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that I actually ordered it, and you said that
Thanks, dude.
it was basically it's like the whole PhD in one book, like all you can know about nutrition in one book. Uh,
Basically, yeah. Yeah, it is. And I have to say, like a lot of my, like a handful of my readers got through the whole thing already, and they pointed out all of the handful of errors in it, whether they be typos or just, just flubs that were made. And so I'm like, oh crap, here. It happens. Like you write, any paper that you write, there's going to be typos that
oh
slip
yeah,
through. So this is no different with the book, and it just really, it grates on my OCD so bad. So I put together an error log. I put together a literal web page with an error log that you can refer to and make sure that you correct that in the book as you go through it. And Victory Belt promised me on the next round of reprints they're going to fix those errors. So yeah, it's not going to be a permanent. They're not going to be permanent
gotcha.
features of the book. So
How long did it take you to research it and make all that into one book?
there's elements that I've accumulated over the last 30 years. So it's sort of like my life's work in a book. So yeah, but it's mainly about 10 years of my research career, and then the full 30 years of my field career. So it I would say technically, what went into the book was like 3 decades of work, but the actual sit down and writing aspect of it was almost 2 years. So
Okay.
I had no life for like 2 years to make get the book together. Yeah, and apparently we needed just a couple more weeks or days to really comb through all of this freaking typos or errors or whatever. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm just fresh off of making the error log, so you're catching a little frustration here.
Hey, at least you made it. Like, it's gonna help a bunch of people out. Like, you like it or not, it helps me, like everybody here that wants to get into nutrition and like dieting, and like,
Man, I've gotten raves for it, honestly. Like, uh, I knew it was good. I knew it was going to be good, but and I tried to make it the best thing ever.
mhm,
And honestly, like the reviews and the feedback I'm getting from people has been just incredible, man. So I'm really happy about that.
that's good. So let's talk about you, right? So how did it start? So as a child growing up, did you always want to get into fitness? How was that?
My hypothesis is this. I think we all have this innate need to look better, feel better, be more attractive, be more effective at what we do, you know? So I think that fitness just kind of encompasses all of that. You end up looking better and
Yeah,
feeling better and being stronger and more effective at everything you do, being more attractive. And it just, it's just there. I think that everybody's born with that. And I just happen to go into the field, man. And I was particularly interested in in the bodybuilding side of things when you see the magazine covers of like the old guard, like Lee Haney and Mike Christian and Tom Platz and who else was on there, Mike Matarazzo and like some of the Vince Taylor, and then Kevin Levrone hit the scene in the late 90s. You're like, dang, this is going crazy. And then Dorian Yates just blew the whole game up by coming in at like 260. And you're like, oh wow, this is really fascinating. And so it's almost just like a lurid fascination with how you can alter the body with nutrition and training. I sort of missed out on the full interest in the drugs part,
yeah.
but who knows, maybe when I'm like 70 or 80 years old, I'll start getting really interested in that dare
Do
side of the
yeah, to
equation,
feel a
you know?
little younger again. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's right. You never know, man. I'm
I
not
do
gonna.
see that. I'm like, a lot of people, they're like, oh, like, no, I'm a bit advocate of like, like just lift and like become your regular self, right? Like, don't do any drugs while you're lifting weights. But like, once you're at that age where you're like, kind of like you're getting your bones and all this is like derailing, and like you're like, okay, I want some boost in my life. So
Right,
a
right.
little
Things start falling apart on you, right?
yeah, and you feel young again, you can start working more often. So I don't see anything wrong with that. Just a little basically help you out. I just don't like it when like people that are young like me, right, like in their 20s, they already have this testosterone flowing through them, but they just add on extra more when they can like just go to the gym, and like it's a long game.
Yeah, no, that's the healthiest way to do it. I mean, we see crazy examples of dudes who just burn the candle at both ends, whether it's doing it for their career, their YouTube career, or their influencer career. It's just
Yeah,
so, oh man, it's just so not worth it. You know, so many tragedies happen in the bodybuilding world
yeah.
overdoing it in every way. Yeah.
Did you
Yeah, but
do you ever feel that like these like fitness gurus, right? They come after you for like, even though you have these research ahead, is that they feel like your research is hurting their career in some ways?
hmm, I only got just a very, very, very minor whiff of that when Brad Schoenfeld and I put out our research looking at the post-exercise anabolic window, and some of the older academics who were like even in the game before we were, they're like, hey, you're criticizing our work and you're challenging the whole idea that you need to have quick absorbing protein and carbs after the workout, and within this 30 to 60-minute window. And so they got a little bit upset, but it only really happened within the ivory tower and within conferences and within a couple papers. So like that never really spread out into the larger community. But yeah, there was definitely some pushback about our research challenging the post-exercise anabolic window amongst some of the older academics. Yes.
Okay. And when you were doing your research, do you have like a team involved while you're doing all this, or? Have you made your own research experiments in the times that you did your research?
It's always with a team.
Okay.
It's always with a team. It's a minimum of two guys working on a review paper, or anywhere from like three to, gosh, up to, up to 8, 10 people working on a trial. And so everybody has their designated role in getting the trial together, and making sure it goes through the paces of execution and publication. And so my role in these publications has been pretty diverse.
Yeah.
When it's a review paper, it's just a matter of writing and synthesis of the existing studies and information. And when it's an actual trial, there are the folks doing the data collection, there are the folks doing the data analysis, and there are the folks doing the interpretation and the synthesis and the writing and making sure the thing is readable. And so I'm a little more on the latter end. So the writing, the data interpretation, synthesis, and making sure the thing is palatable and actually readable. So that's more of my role, is a little bit of the bigger picture,
Gotcha.
making,
Yeah.
making sure the paper's good. And because scientists and researchers, most of them can't write for, for bleep,
Yeah, you can curse here. It doesn't matter for shit. Yeah.
but I'm much more of a communicator, I think, than a number cruncher, or
Yeah.
in quotes a scientist, as it were. I'm more of a writer. Yeah.
Okay. And is there any experiments or hypotheses that you have coming up, like in the future?
Yeah, actually, I have a paper in review right now where we're proposing that the protein needs of older adults are really no different from the protein needs of younger adults.
Hmm.
And that muscle doesn't necessarily change over time if you stay training. So like with older adults, there's a phenomenon called age-related anabolic resistance,
Yeah.
where your body or your muscle tissue specifically is not as receptive to training and nutrient administration, particularly protein and amino acids, as it was when you were younger. And so we're making the proposal that, well, as long as you stay trained, then your requirements don't differ. And there's an odd thing in the research community where we end up giving old folks lower protein recommendations total for the day.
Really?
Like, yeah, the Espen Foundation and gosh, what are the ProAge collaboration? They throw out these figures for old folks that really kind of converge upon like 1.2 to 1.6 or so grams per kilogram of body weight for total daily protein.
Oh.
I think really the focus needs to be on making people armed and dangerous, so to speak, and keeping you armed and dangerous into old fogeyhood. And so the protein intake, the baseline protein intake that would help attain that would be 1.6, and then you would go all the way up to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So in imperial terms, 0.7 to 1.0 grams per pound. And so I think we need to be basically loading up the older folks with the protein intake that's appropriate for younger athletic folks.
Yeah.
And I think that's an underrated tactic for staving off things like sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss, and dynapenia, which is age-related strength loss.
Do,
So
do you believe they may need way more since their body's like getting a little bit more frail? It's like,
right, they're going to need more anyway,
mhm.
because some older folks do have the beginnings of frailty, or they are in the full on throes of sarcopenia. And I just don't think there's much of a downside to over proteining them. It can be difficult from a logistical standpoint, and with some older folks, it's just they don't have the appetite and the drive to get the protein down. Sometimes it's difficult to chew and get those things down. But But yeah, we're looking at the older population right now, and we're just hypothesizing that, hey, need more protein. So
Yeah.
so that's the research focus at the moment with a paper that I have in review, and it takes months for these papers to get past peer review and get published, and so we'll see what happens.
Okay. Chris here has a question. Go ahead, Chris.
Uh, since you said you were an expert in nutrition, my question was, I'm trying to meal prep. And there's a website I use. It's called the Meal Prep Plan. Um, my trouble doesn't come from like making it, but it's just making it consistently, and I know that that's like the way to like actually improve. So how do you like suggest me and like recommend me to achieve that?
Just lock into a routine, man. Lock into a routine with the foods you like and the way that it's most convenient for you to prep it. Give you an example. For me personally, I get like half my protein from protein powder. So it's like a no-brainer. Like half of my protein for the day is like from 4 scoops of protein. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
That's
all I have to do is worry about another 80 grams of protein from somewhere, and that will literally boil down to like 2 chunks of meat, or
Just
2
one
chunks
chicken
of meat
breast. Yeah.
and some
yeah.
dairy and some dairy,
Yeah.
whether it be Greek yogurt or what. And there's my protein. Boom, boom, done.
I thought you couldn't use more than like 2 scoops of
Uh,
protein powder.
nah, dude, that's no.
That's a myth. Okay.
No. Think of it like this: protein powder is it's just literally powdered food, and you can't think of it as like some sort of supplement or something that just goes in and out, or something that you don't absorb. It's literally food. It just happened to be in powdered form. So yeah, that's a myth. That's definitely a myth, and it's in fact it's some of the highest quality protein that we know of in nature. If you're talking about the dairy proteins, whey, or a blend of whey and casein, if you want to be like fully OCD about it, but
Yeah.
even just intact whey protein, yeah, you're gonna have. I mean, it's just food. It just happens to be powdered. So
Yeah. Where'd you
Yeah.
hear that myth from? Only 2 scoops.
It was from a YouTuber.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Chris, listen, my man. Please listen to just follow the work of me and my colleagues from here forward, and
Yeah.
you'll be good.
I'll give you the link for his book, okay? Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of there is a lot of YouTubers that just make like clickbaity like YouTube videos where like it's like correlation versus causation, right? It's not because you're eating 2 scoops of protein powder that makes you feel good, right? Is that you're intaking more protein. So maybe if you added more scoops and it like you probably how much do you weigh right now?
145.
145. Like what if you're eating less, like 90 grams of protein per day, and if you added like 4 scoops a day of protein powder, maybe that bumps it up, or now you're just feeling way better than before.
Yeah, that's like 20 grams. Yeah, that's 120 grams right there.
Yeah. Do you understand what I mean? It's like you just
Yeah.
gotta look at it between like causation versus correlation.
Yeah.
And Alan, do you have any
Sir.
types of superfoods that you usually like? Like I know for me, like I like oatmeal, right? So it's like
Mhm.
what is your types of superfoods? I know I'm using the word superfood, but I guess like the best way to say it's like foods that give you the best like out of like all the above, like nutrition, energy, the thing, the carbs that you need, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, when I think of the term superfood, of course, there's ways to really pick out that term, but
Yeah.
foods that are nutrient dense, so a lot of bang for the buck, so a lot of micronutrition per calorie, maybe.
Yeah.
That would be a way to describe that, or just foods that are really damn expensive, as my wife would say whenever she's like, Alan, what do you need? I'm going to the grocery store today. And I give her my list. She's, oh my God. So yeah, so we got the inflation thing.
Yeah.
All of us are getting choked out by it. So yeah, the superfoods that I consume are really really expensive. So, yeah, the foods that I have on the grocery list that are nutrient dense and that could be considered in quotes superfoods. I love to make shakes. That okay, so the two shakes that I have every day, I have especially in the hot weather, I have a mocha shake in the morning, and
Mhm.
actually it's
Oh, right
Exhibit
there.
A.
Oh.
Um, that's got a lot of unsweetened cocoa powder in there,
Hmm.
and it's got frozen bananas, ice, and 2 scoops of chocolate, whey protein, and coffee.
Okay.
And so, I guess the in quotes the superfood element of that would be the cocoa, because it's damned expensive, and it's got a lot of special goodies in there.
Yeah.
And then the shake I have later on in the day is frozen blueberries, ice, and non-fat milk, 2 scoops of protein powder. So it's whey protein by Optimum.
Yeah.
And again, a bunch of unsweetened cocoa powder in there. And my carb sources through the day rotate between like oats, and fruit, and occasionally some rice and some bread.
Okay.
And then I make sure that my protein sources are diverse and nutrient dense. I always make sure that I get a certain amount of fish through the week. At least twice a week, we'll have fish around here. And then it's a rotation of basically fish, beef, and poultry. I've got steak waiting for me today. I'm super happy. It was Father's Day yesterday.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And goal to be the daddest man on the planet.
Nice.
So, but Chris Cormier has that title right now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I'm just totally into the diversity of food types, healthy stuff, mostly whole and minimally refined foods, with the exception of some stuff like I always give protein powder an exception when we talk about minimally refined or minimally processed types
Yeah.
of foods, because protein powder is actually quite nutrient dense, and the outcomes it provides in terms of body composition and health are all positive. It's not like other foods where they're highly refined and processed. It ends up being a bad thing, usually, like with the case of carbohydrate,
Yeah.
unless you're using it for specific competitive athletic and endurance applications. The more refined the carbohydrate source is, generally speaking, the not so great it is for health.
Okay. Do you have any fat sources that you intake, or is it like, oh, whatever? If it matches with my diet, it's okay.
That's a great question, dude. I always make sure that fat includes olive oil, avocado, nuts, and fatty fish.
Okay.
And if I'm not having fatty fish, I supplement with fish oil every day
Yeah.
anyway, since I only have fatty fish about like twice a week.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'm pretty big on making sure the fat sources are in quotes the healthy fats,
Yeah.
and those will be the sources I mentioned. And there is an element of in quotes unhealthy fats, but it all comes from whole and unprocessed foods, like the saturated fat that I take in would come from some of the meats that I take in, but it doesn't dominate the diet. And the animal fats that I take in are typically in some form. Some of it's from dairy, some of it's from fish. So we're talking neutral to positive effects from these types of fats. I'm not really taking in a whole lot of land animal fat.
Okay.
Not
Is
really,
there?
unless we're talking chicken that's nice and crispy with the skin. Yeah, I mean, you have no soul if you're pulling that stuff off the bird.
Is there a certain amount that you don't go below for like either carbs, like protein, or fats? Like I think I've heard somewhere like you shouldn't go below like 0.2 grams per body per fat. Like below that, is that?
Yeah. As far as like like proportional to body weight, it's about 0.3 that I would say
Okay.
you shouldn't really go below. Because then when you look at the research literature, fat intakes below 20% of total calories, they tend to, well, they're associated with lower testosterone production. So when you keep your fat above 20%, then you're hedging your bets better in that direction. And that correlates with roughly a 0.3 grams per pound of body weight minimum for fat intake.
What do you say about carbs? Because protein is from 0.8 to like 1 grams, right?
Roughly, yeah.
roughly,
I
yeah.
mean, some dudes can go all the way up to 1.5 if you're a competitive physique bro.
Yeah, bro.
If you're in bodybuilding, or if you're in physique, then amounts up to 1.5 can benefit from a satiety standpoint and from a thermic effect standpoint. But yeah, for like protein, it's you don't want to go, you really don't want to go below 0.7 grams per pound for most people.
Mhm.
And carbohydrates, the minimums there really kind of depends on the goal. If you don't have any athletic goals at all, if you just are like, let's say you're middle-aged soccer mom, soccer dad,
Mhm.
all you care about is just losing 20 to 40 pounds off of your body, off your
Yeah.
the big spare tire around the waist.
Yeah.
Carbs, it's really just up to you. Once you get your protein right,
Yeah.
you can go as low or as high on the carbs as you want, as long as it's within your protein and total caloric allotment. There's really no minimum of carbs that you want to shoot for. I mean, there's practical limits to how low you can go in terms of carbs. I mean,
Yeah.
there's ways to try to achieve a 0 carb diet, but then that's impractical. And most people they really can't put together a truly, in quotes, healthy diet with much lower than ketogenic levels, which would be like 30 to 50 grams
Mhm.
of carbohydrates a day. You can still create a healthy diet with 50 grams of carbs a day. But once you really start edging down much below 30, then you really start limiting your options of the foods in the diet that promote good health over the long term.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also, if you have goals, like you don't have the soccer mom, soccer dad goal of just losing 20 to 40 pounds of fat. Let's say you're somebody who wants to perform well on the field or the track, or you're just somebody who recreationally is into maintaining a certain amount of muscle, or certainly if you're somebody who wants to maximize muscle growth, then you can undercarb to the point where it becomes really inefficient to try to gain mass on let's say ketogenic levels of carbs. So you would want to go at least 3 grams per kilogram of body weight
Mhm.
if you're going to try to maximize muscle gain. And much lower than that, then you're really sort of compromising your ability to put muscle on.
Gotcha. Yeah. And what's your opinion on like those who talk about keto or just intermittent fasting? Do you have a little
Yeah.
against keto, or is it like whatever works for you?
Yeah, honestly, keto is fine for anybody who does not have urgent performance goals athletically, or they don't have any urgent goals of putting on muscular size.
Mhm.
So keto is fine for that.
Okay.
So keto would be perfectly fine for your typical desk jockey, your typical corporate slave. Just sitting there filling out the TPS reports.
Yeah.
So yeah, a keto is perfectly fine for people with low activity levels and not major athletic goals or major goals for putting on mass. It happens to be very difficult to have the primary goal of muscle gain and
Mhm.
to do it on a ketogenic diet. It can be done, but it can be done a lot more efficiently and effectively having a significant amount of carbs in the diet.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have none of those goals, then keto is fine. The only thing I would add about keto is that most people, the majority of the general population, you put them on keto, they'll only be on it for like 3 months tops, and then they'll quit, and then
Really?
they'll do something else. Yeah.
Never talk about
Majority.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just most people can't sustain it. There's a small subset of people. I don't know what exact percent of the general population who can sustain keto, but they're in the minority.
Yeah.
They're definitely in the minority. As far as intermittent fasting goes, there's different types of intermittent fasting. There's a time restricted feeding where you only eat within a certain amount of hours within the day. There's alternate day fasting. There's consecutive day fasting. There's different variants of intermittent fasting, and they're all interesting. They all have a bunch of interesting research behind them. But what unifies all of them is that they're just a way to control caloric intake. That's it.
That's literally it. And people try to like come apart that and say something new. They're trying to make their own new thing.
Yeah, they try to name special clinical or metabolic effects, and all of those are like practically meaningless. It's practically meaningless, and it's very difficult to disentangle those clinical effects from the caloric control aspect of fasting.
Yeah. And what's your take on like caffeine? Because I know there's some people out there, I think a lot of people actually, they drink coffee in the morning, and then after that they splurge on monsters throughout the whole day, and then they'll take pre-workout for their workout, and then they're done. And then, I mean, I know it affects sleep, but like from your experiments, what have you seen caffeine as?
Okay, couple things. Like at the general population levels, just statistically speaking, adults really shouldn't have more than 400 milligrams of caffeine a day at max from all sources. You know what I mean? And so if somebody's taken down an energy drink with 300 milligrams of caffeine, then they've knocked out 3/4 of their max allotment for the day for just from a general health standpoint. You know? So people have to really watch it. So you take somebody who has, let's say, 2 or 3 cups of coffee, it's already 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. And then they're taking down like a couple of energy drinks that have, let's say, 200 milligrams of caffeine each. Then, you know, you could potentially be nearly breaching the upper limit, the 400 milligrams by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Nearly doubling it in some cases. And the bad thing about that is twofold. Number one, it affects the quality of your sleep. And really, getting enough sleep is the foundation of good health. It's almost as foundational as getting enough water, being hydrated enough. It's not quite as acutely important. I mean, you can deprive someone of sleep for months and years and they'll still live through it.
Yeah.
But their health is going to be just very subsistent and very just crap. You could drag someone through life and it's just going to be terrible to be underslept. So at the general pop level, if you're averaging significantly less than 7 hours of sleep, then you're erring on the wrong side of getting enough sleep. So that's kind of the big deal with caffeine and indiscriminate intakes of these energy drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the other caveat with energy drinks are different from coffee and tea in the sense that it's a bunch of ingredients kind of slammed together with some caffeine in there as well. And the ingredients that are put in there are anywhere from totally inert to potentially unhealthy. So a lot of energy drinks will be just loaded up with a bunch of artificial colors and flavors and in some cases artificial sweeteners. And they aren't necessarily priming the brain to crave the right stuff. And unlike with coffee and tea, which have a wide range of compounds in them that are associated with good health, like the antioxidant polyphenols in coffee and tea that have various positive effects on different health indexes. With these energy drinks, you're getting none of that. You're just mainly getting the caffeine.
Yeah.
And you're getting the a bunch of the artificial stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily so whereas moderate intake of coffee could be a win-win, intake of these energy drinks is in a lot of cases a zero-sum game. So and in a lot of cases it's a net negative when people when they contribute to an amount of caffeine that exceeds about 400 milligrams per day.
What would you say would be a healthier approach with caffeine?
With caffeine, stick to coffee and tea, and just know that a cup of coffee is about 175 to 100 milligrams of caffeine.
Okay.
Stick to that. With tea, tea has about, at best, 50% of the caffeine as coffee.
Mhm.
So if you get all your caffeine from coffee, then try to top out at about 4 cups a day.
Yeah.
If you get all your caffeine from tea, try to top out at 8 cups a day.
Yeah.
And also, pro tip, get these straws, man. Use these freaking
Kind of straws.
any
Okay.
kind of damn straws. And like just sipping coffee without straws, you'll find after like 20 years, you end up looking like one of those villains in the movies where they just purposely paint your teeth brown, just make you look like
Yeah.
a bad guy. Yeah.
Okay. That's actually pretty good for your teeth. Yeah. Just drink out of a straw.
But then
And-
people just do that crest whitening strips things to
Oh,
get
yeah.
it. So, but yeah, I try to do the straw thing as much as possible.
I like that. I like that. I actually never thought of that.
Yeah.
And do you believe in like caffeine timing as well? Like, oh, you should probably not drink before 12 p.m. or something like that.
Definitely. My cutoff is whenever possible noon.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, yeah, you predicted that one pretty well. So that's my personal cutoff. Other people, they try to cut it off at like 2 or early mid afternoon and stuff.
Yeah.
Sleep is just foundational.
Is it beneficial to separate the days? Like, hey, one day you don't take caffeine, the next day you do, or does it not make sense in like from like let's say experiment A, like group A is doing like Monday they're drinking caffeine, then Tuesday they're not, then Wednesday they are, but group B on the other experiment they're drinking every single day. Does that make a difference in like how their energy works, or is it still the same?
It's still basically the same if it's a moderate intake.
Okay, moderate intake.
If you're really pushing the high end and above, then it can make a difference. Then your body, the habituation effect
Mhm.
can be stronger to the point where, like, if you're an athlete who's using caffeine
Yeah.
to power performance, let's say,
Mhm.
there is some research showing that if you back off of it for a while before an event and then you get back on it, then the effect can be stronger.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And is there any I guess for alcohol, right? A lot of
Mhm.
alcohol consumption with not towards like bodybuilders, but I guess like in general health. Again, it is like a poison, and a lot of people it's like a daily thing in the US or like in other Western countries where
Mhm.
you're just drinking a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
What does that do to the body, and like I guess in both bodybuilding and in like just general health?
Yeah. The major health agencies, as far as their recommendations of alcohol limits per day, it's a lot lower than people would want to hear.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a really sadly low amount. Like I'm talking 2 drinks max for men or larger individuals, and a drink max for women and smaller individuals, like per day.
Okay.
That's kind of the limits that are set. So beyond 1 to 2 drinks a day, then you're looking at just a range of impairments in health through all the bodily systems. And from a performance standpoint and from a recovery standpoint, you're affected as well. So alcohol intake can affect muscle protein synthesis. It can inhibit that. And so even if you're trying to gain muscle, then excessive alcohol intake can impair that process. If you're trying to perform, then when recovery is affected, then performance is affected. And, don't get me wrong there. I know a lot of dudes who drink a whole lot more than 1 to 2 drinks per day and still can progress in their athletic pursuits. But, when you ask about the importance or effect of something, you always have to ask, what's the population and what are the stakes? Because there's all the way from soccer mom, soccer dad trying to do okay on the weekend game versus world-class athletes trying to do okay at the nationals or the worlds.
Yeah.
And so the latter populations, very little room for regular alcohol intake.
Yeah.
And I know that there is a body of research showing the benefits of wine, and red wine particularly. But then again, that body of data comes down to 1 to 2 glasses a day on average. And occasionally you'll see 2 to 3 glasses being all right, but the amounts that are healthy are very depressingly low.
And do you think as like even a little bit of alcohol will damage like because I know Sal from what's his channel called again? I forget their name. But yeah, Sal, he says that he doesn't consume any alcohol, right? Does any like little bit of alcohol do any damage to the to bodybuilders at all, or just regular like soccer moms and soccer dads?
There's a concept of a threshold of biological neutrality.
Yeah.
So there is a particular threshold below which the effects are biologically neutral.
Okay.
And so it's open for debate, but I would throw in my bet that 1 to 2 drinks a day in the scheme of your entire diet, biologically neutral.
Okay.
Unless you're one of these dudes who those 1 to 2 drinks a day over time becomes 2 to 4 drinks a day over time, which becomes 4 to 8 drinks a day.
Yeah.
Then you're, and you know what? There's a lot of folks out there with those tendencies to develop a drinking problem. That was me 4 years ago.
Really?
I haven't had a drink in the last 4 years because I like to chase. I like to chase that buzz, man. That's just how I'm wired. And the dose required to get the buzz kept getting higher and higher and higher because my tolerance kept getting, stronger and stronger. So I had a higher and higher tolerance for alcohol.
Since you haven't drank in like 4 years, does that mean
4 years, dude?
Does your tolerance go lower, and like would you try again to drink, or is it like
I would love to, but I made a conscious commitment to cut my risks.
Okay.
So, and it is kind of weird to be in certain situations where everybody's drinking and you're not, but you know what, as long as you have a drink in your hand, you can fit in pretty well. Nobody's gonna badger you too much.
Of course. And how do you prepare yourself for restaurants? Especially like I know a bunch of guys are cutting, they're trying to maintain their weight, they're looking at their calories, like how am I going to do this at a restaurant? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your take in going to a restaurant and like getting ready?
If you're dieting, let's say, whether it's for let's be honest. I mean, if you're preparing for a bodybuilding competition and it's at high level, high stakes.
Yeah.
You probably want to stay away from restaurants because you just have zero control of what the chefs do.
Yeah.
And if you ever cook at home, you prepare your food at home, the difference in the taste of the foods, where they literally double up on the fat and the oil and the salt and the sugar at the restaurant establishments compared to cooking at home. And it can make the difference of a few hundred calories, and that could add up over time. So, but you know what, if you're not competing, you're just a regular guy with a life and you just happen to be dieting, then the way that you would handle restaurants is you could do it in a couple ways. You could basically skimp on your intake that day, like basically skip one of your meals that day that you would have had, and just figure that the restaurant meal is going to be basically double the calories of a normal meal. And then you come out good by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah. If you're having dinner somewhere, just basically skip your lunch that day, and then you'll be good. Another tactic that you can use is when you sit down to the meal, before the meal gets there, just literally get full on water.
Mhm.
Just drink 2 full glasses of water minimum. And then through the meal, try to commit to another glass, and your stomach space will be displaced by the end of the meal. And then at minimum, you won't be looking at the dessert menu afterwards. So
Okay, that's
those are
nice.
two little things that you can do.
I guess people, a lot of people, they think like when they see 700 calories on like the menu, right? They think
Mhm.
they believe it's 700 calories. I remember I had a whole argument with my science teacher in high school, right?
Yeah.
Where he's like, no, that's illegal. If they make it more calories, that's illegal. I'm like, well, you think they really care about 1/8 of butter to put into that soup? No, like they literally eye it down. Like, if you guys ever had like a scoop of peanut butter, right? It's not. You'd be surprised what one tablespoon is, and it's really depressing. It's not good at all.
Oh yeah. Anytime you do restaurants, and it's the fancier it is,
Mhm.
the more butter they're gonna use, dude. It's like, would you like some food with your butter, sir? Wow. Yeah.
That's ridiculous though.
Yeah.
And with creatine, like I know there's a lot of research about creatine.
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on that? Do you intake creatine every single day as well?
I do. I cheat with creatine, folks,
Oh,
but you saw how the prices of creatine went up,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like it might as well be cocaine, man.
Yep.
It's like, what are we buying here? What the hell? So yeah, I do use creatine. It definitely is the most studied sports supplement compound, pretty much in the history of sports supplements, and
Yeah.
and it's rightly so, because it's the most effective. It has the largest effects on increases in muscle strength and anaerobic power, and muscle size as well. And so, yeah, creatine is definitely legit.
Where do you get your creatine from? If you don't mind me asking.
Um, I got it from a bunch of different sources. Right now, I'm using Optimum,
Okay.
Optimum Nutrition creatine. And whenever you use creatine, you always want to use a brand that has the Crea Pure seal. So Crea Pure is the German sourced creatine, and any other creatine is kind of risky. Like,
Mhm.
you don't know exactly where it's coming from. So yeah, find creatine with the Crea Pure seal, and Optimum Nutrition is one of them.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice. Whenever you're going out to work out and all that, do you have like a special thing that you eat beforehand? Like, do you carb and like eat some like 20 grams of protein before you go in?
I usually try to train while the caffeine is still kicked in.
Mhm.
Um, I probably taken the equivalent of maybe 200 milligrams of caffeine in coffee form
Okay.
before I train. And I typically train within an hour
All right.
of taking that in. And so that's sort of how I get my kick there.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And do you have any advice for those that are like really overweight and they're trying to change themselves, but they're having that hard time either trying to diet or trying to take that first step?
Yeah, you really got to get in touch with why you want to do it. It sounds really cliche.
Yeah.
It does sound really cliche, but you have to have a strong reason to get up off of the couch and get it done.
Mhm.
Um, one of my baby boys, I have two sons. One of them's 16 and one of them's 18.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's incredible. I can't believe it myself. And my younger baby, it's so funny. Now, don't call us babies. I'm like, yeah, but you're my babies. Especially in public. So
Yeah.
yeah, my younger boy, he actually got called fat by one of his classmates
Really?
like 3 years ago. She's like, yeah, Max, you're fat. And dude, ever since then, he just went beast mode, and he's like a freaking stud right now because he just had that trigger, and he's like, I'm never gonna be called that again.
Yeah.
So now he's just like in amazing shape, and you know, so we have different whys, different motivational triggers. My why is that it's just, I just need to fulfill my potential, and I'm just much happier when I feel good about my body composition, levels of muscle, levels of body fat. I just feel a lot happier, and
Yeah.
I can't explain it, man. I just, you feel great when you look good,
Yeah, of course.
So he's got to find his why. Some people find their whys in the threat or crisis of disease.
Hmm.
Some people find their whys in just like, chasing this girl that you like, or
Yeah.
wanting to get this acting part that you've been going for, but everybody else is getting chosen over you because you don't have this certain look. Some people have just various reasons. So I would say to the folks who want to find the motivation or the drive to get any body comp goal done, whether it's lose weight, gain weight, whatever, think about why you want to do it, and the why's got to be really strong.
Nice. Now, if you can have only one workout, right? You're on an island, and then I guess God was like, "Hey, you can have one type of exercise, right? What would you want?"
Wow. That's not a fair question, man. That is unfair. Okay. Let me put it to you this way, dude. Give me a door and a floor, and I'm good.
A
So
door and a floor.
yeah, give me a freaking door and a floor. And so this is what I do. Like, if I have to travel, I don't like finding a gym in the location and freaking Ubering it to the stupid ass gym, and then like coming back to my hotel, and then I got to speak at the conference hall. I get my stuff done in the hotel room. This is how I do it. I alternate push-ups with my feet elevated to make it difficult.
Yeah.
Get the feet on the chair, make it more difficult, with pull-ups. And I use literally an open door. I open the door to the bathroom, sling a towel over the top so I don't jack up my hands too badly. And then you have to be wearing a shirt so you can slide.
Of course, yeah.
Otherwise you're stuck on it, And so you can do pull-ups, man, and they're tougher that way because there's some friction, some drag.
Yeah.
And I alternate those door pull-ups. I call them prison pull-ups with elevated feet pull-ups, man. You do, 4 supersets of that. Your upper body is toast, guaranteed.
Yeah.
You can do different with variations on the push-ups as you go through that to emphasize more chest versus more tricep and all that stuff. And then just do Bulgarian split squats.
Nice.
One leg at a time, foot elevated in the back, Bulgarian split squats, alternate that, do that circuit. Do a circuit of the door pull-ups, elevated push-ups, and Bulgarian split squats. Seriously, guaranteed. You do 3, 4, certainly 5 circuits of that, all to failure.
Yeah.
You're done and you're toast. You don't need a gym, man. And you've done pushing, pulling, and squatting, and that's it. You've covered all the major stuff that's gonna.
Do you aim for
impact.
failure? Do you aim for failure for all of them? And like,
Yeah, for
okay.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. I never heard of that though. Whenever I ask this question to somebody, they're like, "Oh, I would like to have a bench press or something." But you're like a floor and a door.
They
I
give
like
me a
that.
floor and a door, bro, and I can get a full body workout. Yeah.
Nice. And there's one exercise that I do see that get a lot of hate. It would be the deadlift, right? A lot of people, I don't know who. I guess it's people that are not bodybuilders, right? They're like, "Oh, I've seen videos. I've seen basically articles saying that deadlifting or it's really bad." Like the Joe Rogan, I forgot who they had there, like the biggest man right there, and he said like, "Yeah, I don't deadlift." I'm like, well, there's a difference between him deadlifting and you deadlifting because he's probably deadlifting like whole houses and stuff like that. You're deadlifting like 135 or 205, right? Like there's a difference, right? So what's your take on deadlifts?
Deadlifts they're like any other exercise, man. There's a time and a place. All exercises are fine. I mean, it's just resistant joint movement. Exercise selection just depends on your goal, man. If your goal is to get good at the deadlift, there's no better exercise than doing the deadlift.
Yeah.
But the deadlift is primarily a posterior chain exercise that engages just multiple muscles at once. So therefore, it can be, in quotes, functional for people who just want to keep their posterior chain strong, especially lower back.
Yeah.
And just that the whole posterior chain. It's important for that to be strong anyway, whether you do it through 45-degree back extensions,
Mhm.
or whether you do it through squats, or whether you do it through deadlifts. Deadlifts are just another way to strengthen the posterior chain and, engage the quads and the hams and the glutes somewhat. It's just that the muscular work during a deadlift is distributed throughout such a wide range of the musculature that it's not necessarily ideal for targeting hypertrophy of any one particular body part. Like if somebody felt like their lower body needs some work, like quads, for example, they're kidding themselves if they think that the deadlifts are going to be optimal target for that.
Yeah.
It's not an essential exercise, not a necessary exercise. It's just an exercise. It's not good. It's not bad. You have to look at any exercise you do. You look at it on a risk benefit ratio.
Mhm. Of course.
Yeah. And so like if let's say somebody's already doing squats, you're taking care of like everything the deadlift does, except you're doing a little more quad emphasis than the deadlifts, and a little less isometric contraction through the upper back musculature, the traps and stuff from holding the bar that you would be doing in the deadlift. So it's just an exercise, man. I'm neutral to it, honestly.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. A lot of people, they either hate it and it's not that. I'm like, well, you got to get it. You got to see it through like an actual exercise. I guess you got to let go of what YouTube and everybody else tells you. You got to look at the research behind it.
Yeah. And what's the goal? What is your goal?
Yeah.
like a lot of people who they want to look like the bodybuilders, like when they're training, especially when the younger bros. They want to look like the bodybuilders. They want to look like the pro bodybuilders, or they at least want to look like the classic physique dudes and some of the physique competitors with their board shorts and silly posing routines. I'm just kidding. I know some physique guys. They work really hard.
Yeah.
It's just whoever made that posing routine needs to, I don't know. He needs to get fined or something. He needs to pay some penalties for those making up those moves, man. But yeah, a lot of the guys at the highest levels of physique, they don't even deadlift. They just don't, because there's exercises that are more efficient at hypertrophy for the quads and for the lower body in general. The deadlift just stimulates the entire posterior chain all in one movement. And so the dispersal or distribution of stress is just over such a large range of muscles that it's inefficient for hypertrophy of any one particular one.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. And is there a way that have you ever had like an injury, or were you like sick and you're like, damn, I couldn't go to the gym and all that? Is there a way to come back from like an injury or like just being sick for like, I guess like a week or two?
Yeah. Just take as much time off as you need for the injury. I've injured everything on my body from my ankle all the way up, man. Actually, thank God I haven't injured my neck, but it's a matter of taking enough time off and easing back into it slowly enough. Shoulders can be a pain in the butt because it's such a mobile joint and it's hard to kind of immobilize it to let it heal enough, but it's just a matter of time. And if you're not afraid of the prospect of taking half a year to heal from something, then you're okay. You can heal from most injuries in a half a year to a 12-month period. But yeah, I guess the focus would be to not get injured in the first place.
Of course. Yeah. And what about being sick like for like a week? I know, because for me, and like a lot of people that I talk to, like the gym bros, they're like, oh my God, if I'm sick, I still got to hit the gym. You know what I mean? I don't want to lose my gains and stuff like that. And
yeah. Yeah. the maximum amount of time you can go without training and still retain your muscle mass is about 2 to 3 weeks. Anytime you start edging up on a month of no training, you're going to see pretty significant drops in strength and also size.
Okay.
So when you get sick, chances are you're going to be out for like a week at the most. If you get just really damn sick, a couple weeks, you'll still be fine. As long as you can get back to training in 2 to 3 weeks, you're really not going to drop substantial strength and size. So yeah,
Okay.
people just have to know that. Yeah, that you can just not train for a whole week and recover from being sick, and you'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I guess people from COVID, I guess they can experiment from that. They're like, oh, I lost a bunch of muscles from like, not going to the gym for like a whole like year or something. They're like, oh, it sucks.
Did you
But
get COVID?
yeah, I had COVID and I was like, damn, is why like I'm sick. I'm like, God, I can't even lift. It sucks, right? COVID for like 2 weeks, went back. Lifts were a little lower, but at least I didn't lose too much or anything like that. Usually like you gain that real quick afterwards, uh, like in a week or two. So it's nothing to lose upon.
Yeah.
A- And do you believe in like I hate seeing this, but like I'm just big on like you can you can only have one or the other, and that's like those who say like, oh, I want to be a marathon runner and I also want to be a big lifter. I'm like, well, it doesn't, because running does hurt your gains,
Mhm.
but especially if you're trying to do marathon running, like that's like a lot of stress on your body and you're burning too much. Or if you're, I guess I don't know how to explain. Like I mean, you can eat to a certain point where you're not burning as much, but it's still like you're not healing as much with like lifting heavy and also running like farther distances and like longer times. What's your take
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, you're describing what the researchers call the interference effect.
Mhm.
So concurrent training, when you're doing strength training and endurance training at the same time, there's always the potential for the interference effect, and it's usually in the direction of the endurance work, lowering your ability to increase strength, and
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Okay.
Because usually you can take an endurance program, add strength training, and then it actually helps the endurance training. But it's usually not the other way around, man. So
Yeah.
there's a limit to how much endurance work you can do before that work starts inhibiting your strength gains and your size gains. And so I guess the practical take programming takeaways from that would be to limit your endurance work to, if you're, first of all, what is the main goal? You got
Yeah.
to choose one. If your main goal is size and strength, then you would want to limit your endurance work to three days a week ish,
Hmm.
or so. That way that you have opportunities to fully put everything you need to into your strength training without overlap. And you probably don't want to do much more than 30-minute bouts with your endurance work. 3 to 4 times a week, limit to 30 minutes at a shot. And then it really doesn't matter what you're doing with the endurance work, and you'll still be okay. It's when dudes start going over 30 minutes, like an hour, 45 to an hour of endurance work, and you start doing 4 times a week, then you're really compromising your body's ability to recover and avoid overlap with that kind of work. So yeah, you really 3 times a week, 30 minutes most at a shot, and then you should be fine.
From
As
your
far as
experience,
the endurance stuff.
is it better to do lists or hit for those that are really like focused on like lifting and getting bigger?
Yeah. And this is something I learned a lot from my bodybuilding competitor buddies. Almost none of them do hit while
Really?
they're training balls to the wall. I mean, you can't just go high intensity interval sprints and then go hit it hard with the lifts in the gym.
Mhm.
So they usually use cardio as a means to burn calories and just as a means to maintain a base level of cardiovascular type of health. And so it's usually going to be lower intensity, lower moderate intensity, just sort of like moonlit walks, moonlit strolls and stuff. And then you put your intensity towards the lifting. And then that is appears to be in most people the ideal combination for bodybuilding purposes.
Okay. Did they try to aim for like 10,000 steps, a mile a day? Like what is
Yeah,
their?
roughly that, 10,000 at most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do see that a lot. It's because I've been taught like, hey, just do hit 3 times a week and you'll be fine with like just if you want to lift big and all that stuff. And for you,
And you can do that. By the way,
yeah,
you can do that too.
yeah. I just said sometimes I'm like, damn, I really don't want to do that. I just lifted really heavy, kind of tired. I could go for a walk, but I don't know. But
And that's what they do. It's because when you expend all your energy
yeah,
on the lifts, which you should be, if your goal is to gain muscular size, then you really should be allocating all your efforts and your focus on lifting. And then you don't have to worry about saving some energy for your hit workouts.
yeah,
You just walk, just get out there and brisk walk.
yeah. And for whenever you're cutting, right? Is it? I know like a lot of people they usually, actually I do see it a lot. Like a lot of people they tend to do more cardio when they're cutting, which I would say I wouldn't recommend because it's like you're burning a lot more energy when you're already eating less than you were when you were at maintenance or when you were bulking. Is it good to say like, hey, you should probably aim to eat when is it they just lower their calories every single time? Is it better to like lower it below their BMR or just always try to keep it above their BMR?
That's a good question. But before I get to that, let me just say that when dudes are in bodybuilding prep,
Yeah.
their cardio definitely goes up. Their cardio can be as much as close to an hour, 3-4 times a week. Sometimes dudes in bodybuilding prep, in the case studies in the literature, they'll do like a minimum of 30 minutes of cardio, like 4 or 5 days a week. In addition to the lifting. So like for every day they lift, they'll do like a half an hour of cardio, sometimes more. And these are the natural guys. The natural guys usually don't push it to as much of the extremes as the enhanced guys do. So when I was giving out the guidelines of, keep your cardio to like a max 3 to 4 times a week, half an hour a pop, that's just for general purposes. But when guys are prepping for a contest and they really want to pull out all the stops to getting as lean as possible, then all of the long-term sustainability, permanent basis stuff kind of goes out the window.
Yeah.
So it's a different game with that. So yeah, what you're asking about, what was it?
The BMR. Yeah, the
BMR, like
yeah.
lower than BMR, right?
Yeah.
Not a good idea, man. Not a good idea. And a quick and dirty way to estimate BMR is to take your body weight in pounds and multiply it by 10.
Yeah.
Just basically add a 0 to whatever your body weight is in pounds.
Is it different for males and females?
Generally, no.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, generally, no. Female is a little bit lower, but it's still within the right ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah. And this guideline of estimating BMR by taking your body weight and multiplying it by 10, that mainly applies to people who are normal weight. So people who have obesity, well, then you could tend to be overestimating if you just add a 0 at the end of their weight and you're trying to guess BMR. So yeah, I definitely, if somebody's obese and they want to go BMR levels initially, that's fine. But if you're not obese and you try to diet that aggressively by just doing your BMR,
yeah,
that is not going to be sustainable. And at some point, you're going to have to start adding calories back. So yeah, I'm just not a fan of that approach of lowballing calories.
How come it is like that? Where like whenever people that they just keep on cutting their calories, they're like, wow, I'm getting close to my BMR, but I'm like not losing like 1 to 2 pounds per week anymore. Like, is it? Yeah. Should I just start increasing and like back to their maintenance, see if it works out that way? Like, how does that kind of make sense?
If you take a look at everybody who is claiming to eat at BMR levels and they're claiming to be plateaued, Number one, most of these people have been dieting for like 6 months at minimum, 4 months at minimums, 4 to 6 minimum.
Yeah.
Some of them been dieting like all year. So that's your first sign there that they're already psychologically burnt out from the diet. So that's your first hint that they really needed a diet break like 2-3 months ago. And the second thing is most people, they underreport, or they underestimate how much they're actually taking in. So the person who is claiming to take in like 1,200 calories a day,
Yeah.
chances are they're still eating about 2,000 calories a day on average by the end of the week. So yeah, there's a lot of underreporting going on. There's a lot of misestimating going on with intake. And there's a lot of undercover binging going on.
Yeah.
With folks.
Undercover. Yeah.
Yeah. So what people need to do is they need to learn how to take diet breaks. Like my recommended protocol is like auto-regulate a week off from your diet.
Mhm.
Once every 1 to 2 months, every 4 to 8 weeks, just add a week in there where you're not restricting. And I don't mean like a week in there where you go full YOLO binge for a week.
Just yeah,
but
maintenance.
just eat at maintenance. Don't YOLO eat for a week, and but don't restrict either. Don't purposely,
Yeah.
try to nitpick at your intake and stuff. And then it'll basically recharge you psychologically to get back on the plan. So yeah,
Is that better than refeed days? Like
refeed days is a form of the diet break. It's just on a
Okay.
micro level, like time management wise.
Yeah.
So yeah, refeed days works as well. And a lot of times some people can maintain that protocol for a really long time, where on the weekend you just kind of carb up.
Mhm.
And that works out well too.
Nice. And do you have like do you advocate like cold shower therapy or any breathing exercises as well?
Not really. I know that there are some benefits in that direction.
Yeah.
I just don't see it like if you were to do a top 20 list of things that will help you to get to your goals, I think that would kind of be towards the bottom.
Nice. Okay. And we're gonna go through the panel here before we ask the final questions.
Sure.
Okay. Devin, go ahead with your question.
How you doing?
Hey, Devin.
Would you advocate when you're in your late 40s, right? And your body's starting to go downhill.
Yeah.
Would you advocate, would you recommend start taking higher doses of testosterone or any type of getting on any type of cycle?
Good question, dude. This is the way I do it. Let the symptoms talk.
Okay.
Let the symptoms and the progress talk as far as your decision to hop on the sauce, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
If you're happy with your body composition, muscle mass wise, and you're happy with the way your equipment works, then honestly, your actual numbers, your testosterone, your circulated testosterone levels, arguably they don't necessarily totally matter. You can be towards the low end, but if your body comp is good, and you can get things done when you need to get it done. Hard to justify, man. It's hard to justify hopping on.
What about
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but other side of the coin, if you're doing everything you can and you're in your late 40s and you think that it would benefit you somehow, or for professional reasons or other or recreational, it's just personal, then yeah, hop on. But no matter what age you are, if your stuff ain't working properly, then you got to investigate that, and that is an option to look into.
Okay. And do you believe a vegan diet will make you quote unquote healthier? Or
Kinda
would you rather just eat like protein and stuff?
I would say, man, it depends on where you're starting from, because
Okay.
if you're starting from the standard Western diet,
Mhm,
which is basically a bunch of crap food
mhm.
and very little vegetables, then veganism can potentially take you to a healthier spot. But if you're already eating a good diet
Mhm.
that happens to not be vegan, then going vegan can actually present some risks in terms of nutrient shortfalls.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. When I think of healthy diet, going vegan is not one of the first things I think of, for sure.
So you believe it should be like more of a balance, a balanced diet.
Yep,
Oof.
yep.
Okay. Proteins,
And
fats, carbs, things like that.
right, the food groups, all the food groups. Vegan diets tend to be deficient in a range of nutrients, most commonly B12, iron, zinc, calcium, omega-3s. And certainly it's got to be missing in creatine, carnitine, taurine, anserine, what else? Other stuff that's present in animal foods.
Mhm.
And I'm not against people going vegan for ideological / ethical reasons, but usually those people aren't married with kids. They care a little bit too much. They kind of worry too much about stuff that doesn't matter too much. But no, it's a first world diet, man.
It is.
Veganism is the ultimate first world diet,
Okay.
but it can be healthy. I'm not gonna hate on it and get a bunch of vegans showing up to my door trying to choke me out with some hemp.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as it matches your, I guess your, how much protein, how much carbs, how much fats, and how much calories you need for the day. I mean, whatever works for
Mhm.
you. As
And
long
you
as you
and
get
you
to your
can you
goal.
can have a plant abundant diet that just also happens to have animal foods and is still healthy.
you. Okay.
All right, Chris, you can go ask your question.
Um, I know that like they even asked you earlier, like if you could have one exercise, you said a floor and a door. But I guess we're blessed with multiple gyms. I go to Giant Fitness.
Hmm?
And I know that you are more science-based exercises. I
Yeah.
actually like started a program like 3 weeks ago,
Mhm.
2 3 weeks ago. And it's a science-based one. Um, my main concern was for leg day because I do push-pull legs.
Okay.
For leg day was only 4 exercises. It was squats, Bulgarian split squats, um, uh, hip thrust, and then another just overall leg workout.
Okay.
Would you suggest me adding more volume to it? Because I don't know if 4 leg exercises are gonna do it for me.
What's your goal? Like what
Well, I'm
what
trying to
what are you
build.
trying to accomplish with the exercise program? Are you more going for specific sport specific strength, or are you just trying to get the muscles bigger? Like what's your
Yeah,
goal?
I'm not in sports teams right now, so I'm just trying to get bigger right now.
Okay. Okay. All right. So with leg training, there's hip dominant movements, and then there's knee dominant movements, and then there's just sort of combo type stuff. Um, so with if you were to maximize hypertrophy, you would want to be able to cover basically all of that stuff. Um, so a squat and a deadlift would cover similar ground in terms of sort of the combo of hip and knee work, but the squat would be more effective for that. So you can almost, if you were to just narrow it down, I would do the squat before doing the deadlift because you're already doing hip thrusts, and so doing squats would cover a bunch of the quad work, and peripherally the hams and the glutes we get hit with the quads as well, but the glutes would be hit more efficiently with the hip thrusts. So you're covering the quads mainly with your squats, And then you're covering the glutes mainly with the hip thrusts. And then if your goal indeed is to get bigger pins, then you would want to hit the hamstrings more directly too. If you have a lying leg curl or a seated leg curl, I would add that. And then of course you've got your calf work that you'd want to do in there as well. So if you're not doing calf work, definitely add that in there too. And as far as the number of different exercises go, doesn't really matter much. You're going to be hitting just focus on the muscles that you want to hit, and then choose the exercises based on that. So in your case, much more efficient, man. Just stick with the squats and the hip thrusts and lying leg curls or seated leg curls. And you know what? You can also add some just regular old seated leg extensions too, and work it that way. And another thing that you would pay attention to is total volume for each muscle group per week. Total volume per week. So the literature shows that for beginners and intermediates, 5 to 10 sets to failure per muscle group per week is sufficient to grow, to maximize your growth rates. If you're more advanced, then it's 10 to potentially around 20 sets per muscle group per week that would optimize muscle hypertrophy. So even if you just stuck with, let's say, just squats, forget about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Then you would want to limit your squats to, depending on what your training status is, either 5 to 10 sets total for the week or 10 to 20 sets total for the week. So yeah, training volume matters because you can overdo and you can underdo training volume. A lot of guys overdo it. So yeah, that's my take on your exercise selection and stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Devin, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I was just curious. Did you have any tips on how to become more explosive in a workout? For example, I do a lot of kickboxing and Muay Thai. Is there anything I can work on to have me have more stamina and become more explosive in my attacks?
Yeah, you know what, man? My bias to that answer is get the explosive training done in the specific work that you're doing with Muay Thai and kickboxing. Like I wouldn't necessarily get on the weights and start doing plyometrics and start jumping all over the place and start doing like explosive movements that are loaded with weights and stuff. I would honestly get that work done during the actual drills. So that's my bias. That's my bias towards that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna see.
That's cool though, man. That's cool. I have somebody I can talk MMA here. I'm a professional MMA watcher. I'm an expert at sitting and yelling at my screen during MMA, bro.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
Have you ever tried MMA, Alan?
No. I just did some taekwondo and karate as a kid.
Nice.
But now as an adult and especially as a dad, I have a black belt in watching MMA, man.
Okay, nice.
Okay.
All right, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, hey man, how's it going?
What's up, Josh?
I appreciate the time. My question was, how important is digestive health to you, and how do you take care of your digestive health?
Digestive health is very important. It's hard to manipulate it. It's hard to alter it to make it better, because a lot of that is going to be, unfortunately, it's going to be genetically determined. And the best that we know of for making sure your gut microbiome is healthy is making sure that your diet is diverse enough and includes enough fiber and enough of the range of the food groups to get it done. There is some research on probiotic supplementation to improve things, but it's mixed and the magnitude of effects are probably small. I would basically say to tell you to default to the stereotypical healthy diet that includes all the food groups, and then you'll likely be doing all that you can to make sure digestive health is good. And then of course not constantly eating too much total food daily, and that's where people begin to start seeing adverse symptoms when they're just simply running hypercaloric conditions for too long. It's like if you're bulking constantly and you're aggressively bulking, then you can run into problems there. But other than that, just maintain your standard healthy diet and not eating too much, and then you'll be good.
Nice.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we're going to do a cool thing here. It's called spinning the wheel. All right. Do you
Okay.
see my screen right here, Alan?
I do.
All right. It's like, I'm going to spin it for you, see what you land on, and you got to answer it.
All right.
All right. Let's see what this one is. All right. If you can go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Oh, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Geez. Maybe Hawaii, maybe Maui.
Hawaii. Okay.
Yeah.
You like surfing or anything like that?
No, I just have some good memories of eating a lot and relaxing a lot when I've been to Maui. So yeah.
Nice. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And if you can go back in time, right, and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
Be careful about alcohol. Be careful. It could mess up your life.
Nice.
That's what I tell my younger self.
Okay. And is there anything you want to ask your future self?
Ask my future self.
Yeah.
Goodness. Did I hit my potential?
Okay.
or did I work as hard as I could to hit my potential?
Okay.
Yeah.
Dev, go ahead. What's your question?
What's your idea of freedom? Like,
My idea of freedom is doing what you love most as your career, because then it doesn't really, nothing feels like work. It just feels like you're fulfilling your desires and needs, and you're happy doing it.
do you, as a man, do you ever think you will ever, quote unquote, retire? Like, it'll be a time where you think you would just be sitting on the beach, just drinking margaritas all day and just not working at all? Or would you rather be doing something, for the rest of your life?
But I would rather be doing what I do, man. Like I love what I do. I couldn't imagine just calling it quits and going fishing and that's it, sitting on a porch looking at the sunset every day, waiting to die. I'd rather be active. I'd rather be helping people. I'd rather be teaching people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And is there a secret sauce to like basically dieting, lifting weights? What would you say if someone said, "Hey, what's the secret sauce to doing all that?" What would you say, Alan?
It's eat the foods that you love, because that's the way you'll stick to the diet. And of course, there's limits to that. There's parameters to that. Eat the foods that you love within a healthy dietary framework.
Of course.
And then do the type of physical activity that you enjoy. Like some people don't like the idea of going to the gym. They like the idea of like climbing rocks or something.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you happen to love it, then that's what you need to be doing physical activity wise. And with diet, stick to the foods that you love, then you'll stick to the diet.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like that. Is there a quote that you live by every day or you could think of?
Yeah. It's actually a quote by my damn self.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
A life spent chasing dreams that never come true is better than a life spent running away from dreams that could have.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. You're going after what you want, your passion.
Right. That's right.
Love it.
Even if you never like exactly make it,
Yeah.
you chased your dreams, and that's what counts.
I have a similar quote like that.
And is there any books that you would recommend for you could can you please tell everybody what your book is that you just uploaded or published?
Yeah. It's called Flexible Dieting,
Flexible
and it's
diet.
available everywhere books are sold. I mean, you can even go into Walmart and it's going to be in some Walmarts.
Nice.
So
And
yeah.
is there any books that you would recommend that helped you in parts of your life?
Ooh, way back, I read a book called The Alchemist
Yeah.
by Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
It's my favorite book. It's my favorite book.
And
Yep.
honestly, I mean, that I read that book, I was like, man, this really resonated with me. Fulfilling your personal destiny, that whole idea. I loved it.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is there anything that you would like to tell your mother or father?
Just that I love them and thank you for the sacrifice.
Thank you for the sacrifice. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Mhm.
And lastly, how can people reach out to you?
You can find me anywhere, dude. I'm just DM me on Instagram. Heck, email me.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm out there. I'm in the
Yeah.
public, so easy to find, man. Yeah.
Nice. We'll put your Instagram. Do you use email a lot, or is it just social media mostly?
Any which way, man. Any which way but loose. I'm probably my biggest audience is on Instagram.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Thank you, Alan. We loved having you here. Great
Guys,
time.
been a pleasure. This is a different format, different questions than I usually get, so it was cool.
Nice.
Diverse amount of questions. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. It really was a pleasure.
No problem. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Take care.